what your favorite D&D spell says about you. A month ago, I invaded all of your YouTube community pages and asked what your favorite D&D spell was. We got a bunch of awesome responses and reasons why, so rather than going through hundreds of random spells in the game, let's just focus on our community's favorite. If this video does well, I'll expand the spell horizon in a later video, so show me you care by dropping a like and adding your own spell stereotypes in the comment section below. If this is what your favorite D&D spell says about you, hope you'll enjoy. Heat Metal. You've googled player guides on some of the most broken game mechanics and love destroying your enemies with overpowered abilities. The last time your DM used Heat Metal on your character, you nearly had a heart attack. How dare they use blatantly powerful magic? Only you can do that. True Polymorph. You're a forever DM, finally jumping into the player seat for once. Now all you can imagine is transforming into monsters after realizing how limited a low-level D&D character sheet is. Gesh. You actually know how to pronounce this spell's name. Also, there's a good chance you have or will commit a D&D horror story. Sure, you can make most people do whatever you want with the magic, just don't become the next criminal bounty your party has to collect. Hunger of Hadar. You always have a bit too much fun reading the description of this spell. Something about slurping noises and milky tentacles always seems to get a chuckle out of anyone you describe it to. Detect thoughts. Your DM doesn't allow their NPCs to ever give up information to progress the story. Having cheesy ways to crack their steel resolve became a must-have. You also like how smart this spell makes you look. Learning information from a creature before they even open their mouth is just so cool to you. Case closed, you can go now. Invisibility. You completely ignored a super cool encounter your DM had prepared just because nobody was able to see you coming. Be ready, they're not gonna let you skip the next one. Chain Lightning. You're tired of all the best spells in the game accidentally killing your allies in the process. Just once for a change, you want to neatly zap enemies, deal a satisfying amount of damage, and leave the battlefield completely unharmed in the process. Catapult. You enjoy all the overlooked creative implications of what you can actually do with a catapulted item, like tossing an electrified dagger at someone knee-deep in water, or getting an important object far away from the reach of enemies. Chromatic Orb. Finally hearing your DM say, the monster is vulnerable to your damage, instead of resistant or immune, is a moment you'll never forget. Confusion. Last D&D session, you were stretching back on your chair, smirking at the DM as they fumbled around with the list of rules for how confusion works, and how it individually affected 15 monsters in the radius. You also noticed the Legend of Zelda reference with the material components. We saw what you did there, Wizards of the Coast. Conjure Animals. I swear all of your favorite spells are just ones that turn combats into a painful slog. I love this spell too, don't get me wrong, but at least I have respect for the players who also want to take a turn in combat. Spirit Guardians. You main tank, guardian, or support roles in basically every game you play. You're always the character up front and ready to take a hit for your allies. Nobody's getting past you without being eviscerated by angry spirits first. Prestidigitation. You're never satisfied with a spell that only has one functional use. The more text and obscure ways your magic can be used, the better. Guiding Bolt. Comboing your magic with the other player characters really makes your combats feel like an anime fight scene. I've struck him with the bolt. He's vulnerable now. Finish him, everyone! Shadowblade. You're doing some really cool synergy stuff with your classes and features. Whatever character you made is always a treat to watch take their turn in initiative. Sleep. The only other spell next to Fireball that you always take just because everyone says it's so good. Sure, it might be basic, but watching low health enemies crumble to the ground is always a treat. Chill Touch. Somebody offhandedly mentioned that the campaign would be full of undead. Vampires and liches have scarred you in the past, and this spell will be payback to every zombie and skeleton that's ever wronged you. Call Lightning. Your party is terrifyingly synergized with trapping and shotgunning a group of enemies the second a fight begins. Entangle, web, or hold person, and then finish off with endless Call Lightning. It's a deadly combination. Wrath of Nature. You're one of the rarest D&D players out there, choosing to play Ranger or Druid. Once again, another terrain-specific ability you'll almost never get to use unless there's trees, rocks, and grass around. This level of situational uselessness has to be a kink, right? Moonbeam. Chasing enemies around with this spell always makes you maniacally laugh, getting louder and more unhinged every turn the enemy spends trying to run away from you. Polymorph. Why does the word Tyrannosaurus Rex put such a cheeky grin on your face? There's always an indescribable sense of joy when a player gets to control a powerful monster stat block for a change. Suggestion. If I had a nickel for every time you completely took over a low-level boss with this spell, I'd probably have around 3 nickels. Sure, I might still be poor, but good luck trying that again on the next boss. I spoke to your DM, they're gonna have charm immunity. Cloud of Daggers. You enjoy creating unnecessarily dangerous hazards wherever you go. Doesn't matter if they injure your own allies, that's half the fun. There's also a good chance you've had a character die due to your own shenanigans or friendly fire. Eldritch Blast. If I didn't bring this spell up here, then you'd better believe you would have written up a cool stereotype for it in the comments section. And since I crave audience interaction, we'll leave it at that. Go my minions, come up with hundreds of different meanings for this cantrip, your warlock friends will thank you. Contingency. You're at least twice as smart as the typical D&D player, constantly finding creative ways to set up devastating plans before combat even begins. Clone. You're gonna spend an entire session collecting the diamond, vessel, and your own flesh needed to set up the spell. The only thing that worries you now is losing all your magic items on death. True Strike. You somehow found an incredibly niche and not nearly as horrible use for this terrible spell. Doing this took you a lot longer than you'd hope to admit. Fog Cloud. Nothing ever goes as planned for you. Whenever a bad situation starts, fogging up the place always makes for a great escape. Firebolt. You've taken this spell so many times that reflavoring it became a must-have. You're not throwing flaming motes anymore, now it's scalding water and hand grenades. Find Familiar. Having a cute little magical companion is always fun. Too bad everyone in your party cares more about your pet than the person who summoned it. Shield. This spell just feels really cinematic for you. Hearing the initial worry of your party when an attack is about to hit, only for them to cheer when you deflect it in the nick of time, is the hype you love D&D for. Prismatic Wall. Another overly complicated and slow spell you only like because the color of the magic is a pretty rainbow. Thunderwave. You're one of the 10 people in the world who know how to use this spell properly. Blasting groups of enemies off of ledges has always been enticing, but you'd only found success doing it in Baldur's Gate 3 because that video game at least has varied structure heights that make pushing, shoving, and thunderwaving a lot more enticing. You're totally not venting right now on how most DMs use flat, uneventful battle maps, and should definitely move on to the next spell before people start getting annoyed. Magic Missile. You like that this spell just works. The words, "the enemy succeeds their save," or "your attack misses," has been scratched into your mind like a broken record, and you never want to hear them again. Enlarge Reduce. At one point you made an enemy larger or yourself smaller. Sure, it gave your opponent a mechanical edge, but they also can't follow you through passageways now, so there's that. And finally, Silence. After casting this spell, you start silently mouthing words just to mimic how it'd feel to be in the silence area. Please limit this joke to once per session, because it gets annoying quickly. And yeah, that's about all I'm willing to draw for today. You all keep absolutely destroying like goals, so let's make this one tough. 20k likes and I'll guarantee another video in this series. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.